Hey, everybody, welcome to the Smart in Public podcast. We are back with another guest today. We have Brooke Hammerling on the show.
Yay! Let's party, guys. I'm ready.
We're so excited, Brooke, that you took time to come on the show with us and do a little bit of, I don't know, maybe like a Pop Culture Monday Smart in Public mashup.
Yeah, I think like I see a partnership in our future. I mean, this has been a week. I don't know, guys. It's been, I say this every week when I do my podcast. I'm like, oh my God, it's another week we survived. I don't know how. We're still here.
Honestly, I feel like it's laugh so we don't cry. Like, I feel like that's a lot of the topics that
you might cry a little too, though. There might be a few tears.
Dude, anytime I need a good cry, I just watch an episode of Shrinking. I don't know if you guys watch that
gosh,
show.
Of course.
But
absolutely.
like, because it makes me feel happy feels. Like, I just love it so much. I watched one last night and my husband looked over at me and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I feel like I'm just processing some things through this.
I know, but I'm in that dark place where I now watch Shrinking and I'm like, we can't lose Harrison Ford. We've lost so many. Like, there's Diane Keaton and Catherine O'Hara. Like, I like, we're, and then obviously we've just lost James Van Der Beek, like these people, but like the older ones, I'm like, no, just keep going, keep working, keep doing it.
Do you know what the one was that stuck with me? Literally, like, I cried 3 times for no reason. I do not know this person, but Rob Reiner and his wife.
Well,
like,
that story.
When I read that article, I was like in tears. And Scott's like, "You do not know this person." I'm like, it is just so impossibly sad.
But I think that's an interesting place to kick off because I actually think there is a legitimate understanding. Like, yes, people die of illness. It happens. We can relate to it. There is some sort of understanding it's going to happen, but this was such a shock. And he also brought so many core memories to our lives with these joyful films and these joyful things that you would think, like, after such a huge impact on the world, to go out that way. That's one thing that was just the shock to the system that we're all fascinated with. But I also think it does touch on other things that all of us sort of have, whether in our own lives or through our network of friends or colleagues, somebody who has somebody in their life struggling with addiction and mental health. And I think it struck everyone in a way of like, oh my God, like the quiet parts that you're not supposed to say were said out loud in such a grandiose way that I do think it connected with people in a very different way. I can't tell you how many conversations I had with people who said, well, I have a brother that's dealing, or I have my husband's sister has this, or our child. And then you start to think like the impossible is possible. And so it struck a chord with a lot of people.
God, that's such a good.
But then you also think on the positive side, like, he brought so much joy to us, like the breadth of content from, I mean, you guys are children when you weren't even alive, but I'm an All in the Family girl. And so to like see him as this meathead, as what he was, to what he gave us as a gift of a director. I mean, from Princess Bride to When Harry Met Sally, it's like all of these cultural moments that we can reference, and we do reference on a daily. It's striking.
I'll have what she's having all the time, like standard in my house.
Standard operating procedure in our dialogue now.
I know.
Yeah. Or as you wish, like just that always wanting someone to be like, as you wish.
I know. Or every wedding I've ever been to, I go, marriage, sweet marriage.
Like, it's a crime to be a celebrant and not start with that every time.
A crime. Actually, I saw that actor once when I was crossing the street where I would live in New York in Greenwich Village, and I wanted to just go up to him and say, thank you so much. But we're New Yorkers. We don't do such things.
That's true. You have to be cooler than that.
Yeah, we're too cool for that.
That's not who I am. I just can't be cool. It's impossible in my bones. So
it's not my natural place, but I've learned to be that in New York, at least. Now I'm in LA. It's a whole different set of rules.
Oh, I feel like LA, there's no acknowledgement. Don't you feel like?
No, it's really interesting. In LA, so this is what really blows my mind. So I'll go to dinner at Sunset Tower, which is literally my dining room because I live just above it. It's at the Tower Bar is at the Sunset Tower Hotel. And it is one of the best rooms in Los Angeles. It's just the vibe, the ambiance, the menu, the Dimitri, who's the maitre d', It makes everybody feel like famous, whether they are or not. But anytime somebody walks in, everybody's sitting there is generally, because in that room, like the tourists have to go into another room really, but in that room, for the most part, it's like people in LA. So it's executives, it's agents, it's managers, it's actors, it's directors. Like you'll be sitting, like there's Pedro Pascal next to you, there's Al Pacino. But every time somebody walks in, everyone looks up and looks. Like, they all look up. They all look to see who it is. They all do. Whereas in New York, no one gives. Can I curse on here? Am I allowed? Of course you can. No one gives a fuck in New York. People are just like whatever. Like literally, unless it's like basically Obama, and everybody will start applauding. But you could be like, people might do a little side eye glance, but too cool for school. In LA, where literally you're surrounded by celebrities, people look up there. It's just that kind of. It's a mover and shaker kind of town. People want to know, like, oh, is that somebody I need to go talk to? Is that somebody I need to go work with? It's wild.
I feel that when I'm in LA for work, or like I'm visiting friends in LA and you're at a bar or anywhere really, and I feel like you're having a conversation with your friend and they're looking beyond.
Looky-loo. It drives me fucking nuts. I'm like,
what are you guys? The eyeballs just go around you and then behind and in the back.
It sucks. This is why LA in my world is like, I host dinner parties. I'm like, just come. Either I'll go to a tower and I'm with people who do not look up, or, you know, I'm at San Vicente Bungalows, which is a members club where there's a little bit of that. And in my house where there, you know, we're just sitting here and I'm making dinner and it's a very nice, chill environment, because it can be annoying.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you feel it. But also I had LA completely pegged the wrong way, because I feel like that.
Yeah, well, it is. It's the bigger the people are in the room, the more looky-loos they become. It's just so bizarre. I don't know, but anyway, I could talk about LA and the weirdness of it all day. But we have great weather, so I like.
Well, listen, I feel like we should probably tell people who you are a little bit.
Sorry.
Introduction. This is going to be a little bit of an unorthodox episode.
Great.
I have a feeling, which I'm all about.
Fine.
So for those that don't know Brooke, she spent more than 20 years helping some of the most successful tech entrepreneurs shape their communication strategies. I feel like many of the brands, many of the people, and the faces that you know throughout Silicon Valley have had a little bit of Brooke happen to them at some point.
Some I'm proud of, some I'm not so proud of as we go into a new world. But
in 2005, she started Brew PR, a pioneering media relations agency that represented some of the most renowned and disruptive tech companies. In 2016, Brew was sold, and in 2020, in January, Brooke launched the new thing. So
great time to launch a business, guys. I always recommend launch a new business and hire people right before a global pandemic. It's amazing.
Or like early adopter, maybe.
It actually did work out to my benefit, more so than had I been at the agency still. So we can talk about that. But
well, that was one of the things. So the new thing, I feel like, is such a representation of your career. Like, it's kind of, you've reinvented yourself. You've started multiple businesses now. You're shifting across industries. Like, maybe for people that haven't heard of the new thing, like tell the gang.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that when I think about that, I'm almost 52 years old. It's so crazy because I still feel like I'm 22, which is a good thing. But I did start 30 years ago in the PR business. I love talking to young people getting into comms now. I did not know what communications or PR was when I was in college. I did not go to a school where there was a communications major. I went to a small liberal arts school, which I loved, in Florida, called Rollins, which looks like a country club, but it's an incredibly academic school. But it was a liberal arts school. I studied like Jane Austen, and I was a creative writing major. And, you know, I did not know what PR was, and probably better for it, to be quite frank with you. But it was also at that time when the internet was coming. So we didn't have email. It's like I was studying abroad when email came to my world in 1995. I was like, what is this? So I found a sector that I really was interested in, which was this thing called technology. And I had this calling to go out to San Francisco, and I fell into this world of PR, and I differentiated myself early on, and it was basically out of complete lack of knowledge. Like, so I was surrounded by people who had been communications majors and had studied PR and knew like the Tylenol stories, and I was like, Jane Austen, I could talk about all day long. So I was really scared, and I had got this job because at that time, these agencies were hiring bodies. There was just too much work to accommodate because everybody was like getting into this .com thing, and they didn't know. And so I was able to get a job, no money, but a job. And my peers knew more than I did. And so I just read everything. And that was something quite unbelievably, most of the people around me did not do. So I was understanding and reading just out of fear because I did not want to call somebody at the Wall Street Journal or Fortune, which is what we did back then, without knowing like who they were, what did they write about, what was their tone, what was their background, what could I find out about them so I could have some sort of relatable conversation rather than just like calling them and pitching them a video games story or something like that. And as a result, I developed great relationships, and the relationships are to this day relationships that I value and love, and that's what propelled me to really find this passion in communications and really a different approach to it, which was, this old adage of like, we can't be friends with press. I've proven that model wrong. You just have to be very clear which hat you're wearing at which time. Yeah. And so my career stems from those relationships that I then was about quality over quantity, learning about, but also pushing myself out of those comfort zones. Like, when a new format came, like when the YouTube came, like really understanding how that worked and that creators are going to have voices and that's going to be different. So getting out of my comfort zone. And that's how Brew came to be, which was this, more of a specialized agency, but led by senior people. And then that grew and grew, and it's still, at the end of the day, pitfalls of that is it becomes a regular agency to some extent, and you can only scale so much as one person. And when everybody wants to work with you or my business partner or whatnot, you just don't sleep there. And I was on 4 different time zones, and it was just a really impossible situation. And so I was thinking also, what's next? Looking at the future. And 2019 was this really pivotal moment where you started seeing entrepreneurs fall. A lot of founders sort of at 2018, like drama, the things that all the people that we had propped up, a lot of them started to disappoint, have scandals, things like that. And then you start to question, the media started to question the tactics, right? Media started to change, like, oh, we're not going to just write these flowery stories just because we think that we need to have that story. We now need to be more critical. We need to look at things more with a magnifying glass. That takes a specialized somebody in communication to navigate when you're bringing a company into a world, whatever, whether it's a large company or an emerging company. That relationship is key, and you need to be really strategic. Yeah. And I talked to a lot of people. There were opportunities, whether I was going to go into venture capital, which a lot of people were doing, or go in-house and run corporate, which is not for me. And I'm very fortunate to have a mentor and a leader of Live Nation, Michael Rapino, who for people might think of him as a big, scary, billionaire CEO. He is one of the realest people ever. I mean, he's a dog guy. He literally doesn't go to work until he takes his kids to school. He is he's just the realest. And he's like, the agency stuff isn't what I pay for. I get the value out of like you whispering in my ear and the strategy and the connectivity. And if you can sort of build something around that, and it's the top layer of what Brew is doing, it's the top stuff, and the rest of the stuff, other people are already doing it. The press release, the sort of all of that, you can do that. And so the new thing was born as the strategic advisory to really founders. And then he also made this really great point, which was his company, like he has a communications team, an internal team. They benefit from having outside things and a perspective like mine that's sort of, I'm outside of the box. I'm nimble. I push the envelope. I have relationships that I can have that might be different than you can have internally. And the new thing was born, and I haven't looked back, and it's been amazing.
Thinking about that top level kind of advice that you're giving, like one of the things that we talked about previously in an earlier episode is this whole thing around like the Teflon founder, and you were talking about how founders are falling recently, or, back when you were starting a new thing and they needed that guidance and they needed that person to whisper in their ear and give them that judgment. Like, we're seeing a lot of founders that need that now. And particularly like even in the news today with Mark Benioff, and you would have seen of like the comments that he made at their
I've known Benioff since we were teenagers, basically. I mean, Benioff's always shot from the hip, but Benioff to me, I am not his favorite person these days. But so I'll say this, but Benioff to me is a great example of somebody who has not really understood the moment of time that we're in. He is from a different era. He has not grown with that era. It's somebody once said to me, who's a very famous Hollywood person, that Hollywood, like actors tend to stop growing maturity wise at the level when they become famous. So if they became famous at 22, they are forever sort of frozen in that 22-year-old mindset, which makes sense. So, they've just been, because they become very sheltered. The world has, and I think that same might be for when you become very rich and famous CEO. You don't have the people, like he should have people keeping it real for him, but to not have the judgment to make a joke about ice in your like at this moment in time, just like he didn't when he posted a selfie with Pam Bondi and was like partying at the White House. Like, to know what that will do to your internal team in a polarizing moment is just, the lack of self-awareness is just bananas to me.
Yeah, I it's almost interesting though. I almost wonder if I wonder with Benioff, because the company has shifted itself as well, right? Like it was a very different place when we were there from a values perspective. And I think some of the friction, and we've talked about this on the pod before, I think there's still people working there who really believe the company stands for certain things and leans a certain way. And I think he is now leaning quite the other way, let alone the judgment to make a joke about it. But even just from a where his views are leaning more to the right now. And I think people are just finding that tension really confusing. And I guess trying to understand, is that a change in his own personal views? How's that apply to the company? How do you separate the two? And then I think on top of all of that, there's kind of this just weird, like the judgment, to your point. Like, I just don't know.
A lack of judgment.
That's a good idea.
I think, my dime store analysis of Benioff is that Benioff rode the wave for so long when the company was under a certain type of administration. He will go wherever the wind blows. I think I've always known that. So I said this in a room full of people once, but like, this was 10 years ago, maybe even, when I said, Benioff is the type of person, like, you see Benioff, he's presenting to you, like, I will bend down in front of the homeless person and I will wash his feet. This is my city, San Francisco, and I love San Francisco and I will help you. But I then said, the people who really know Benioff know that if no one was looking, if there wasn't anybody with him, he would walk over that homeless person and be like, get out of my way. Like, it's all for spectacle. He's an unbelievable promoter. The genesis of Benioff is that. I mean, Benioff went to Larry. So the company Salesforce and the company NetSuite were born in the same week. The founder of Salesforce, Benioff, and the founder of NetSuite, Evan Goldberg, were best friends. They worked together at Oracle. Benioff was in marketing and had the ear of Larry, and Evan was in engineering and had the ear of Larry. And engineering is a very different world than marketing. Evan had this idea. It was like Siebel Online, and it was with basically the premise of Salesforce. And he went to Larry, and Larry said, no, that's marketing. Like, what everybody needs is accounting. Everybody needs sort of back office and this and that. You build that, I will give you $100 million. And NetSuite was born. Benioff goes to Evan. I really love your idea, though. I think there's something there, that Siebel Online. Can I take it and tweak it? He goes to Larry a few days later, and Larry's like, this is a marketing company. This is not a tech company. That's perfect for you. You're a marketer. You are PT Barnum. Here's $20 million of initial investment, because it's cheaper, because it's a marketing company, not a tech company. And the two companies were born. Salesforce launched much faster because it didn't have the complex technology needed that NetSuite did, which was called NetLedger at the time. But Benioff is PT Barnum. He gives the people what they want, and he'll go wherever that is. But he's gotten a little too ahead of himself now, where he thinks that people are, he's the wizard and people will applaud him no matter what. And when you make something that's certainly out of that bad taste, and he's already gotten in hot water for talking about ice, it's like either he doesn't give a fuck and is like, be done with them, let them eat cake, like I don't care, or he really doesn't get it. I don't know. It could be one or the other.
Hard to say which one it is. I think the other part of all of that is just the culture, the leak culture now. It was like an hour, I think, between when it happened and when it leaked first.
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
That company is, people are not happy and they're leaking all the time.
But any company, I mean, that's like somebody just asked me what was a PR crisis and you have to act quickly. I mean, this is so silly, but that company Strava, which is the fitness app, right?
Yeah.
Sort of running, and but then there was this viral video that obviously I covered in my newsletter, Pop Culture Mondays, which we'll get to, but and it was this viral video that went viral because TMZ actually got it, and it went on TikTok, and it was an executive from Strava who was drunk out with her boyfriend at a bar in San Francisco and got into a fight with the bartender. And it was all ugly, and then she gets thrown out of the bar, and then she falls on her face, and it's just everywhere. But her very visible who she was, and it was the executive at Strava. It went everywhere. I mean, the New York Post had it. It was one of those things that came out of TikTok into mainstream media within the same 24-hour cycle. And Strava all of a sudden is like, how did we get into it? And they're like, Strava, and all of the socials like, how dare you? And all of a sudden they had to react very quickly. And it's like, this person is no longer employed by us. And they had to act incredibly quickly, but this was not even something they like normally would.
I mean, how do you, you can't necessarily prepare for that.
Yeah, you can't prepare for it, but also if you talked about it 5-10 years ago, they wouldn't have even known about it. Girl got in a fight at a bar. It wouldn't have been.
Yeah. It's very much now like
footage. There wouldn't have been. Yeah, it wouldn't have been as fast. Like it's just so different. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I brought up Pop Culture Monday so we can segue into how I started writing this newsletter when I was still at Brew. I had sold my company to this company called Freud's, and I was commuting between New York and London. And it was at the time, I'd like to think 2017, somebody can fact check me. I don't even know when I started my own newsletter because it wasn't done with real intention. I wasn't like, I'm going to write this newsletter for the masses. It was, I had friends like Kara Swisher and Stephanie Rule who are incredibly accomplished, busy moms. They have big jobs. They have big family lives. I'm ADHD and dyslexic, have an unbelievable ability to retain information that is completely useless. I can meet you yesterday and will not remember your name. I can remember an episode, a scene from like Beverly Hills 90210 in 1997. So it's very strange. And it was right when The Mandalorian had come out on Disney. It was Disney Plus, and not everybody had it. And their kids were talking about Baby Yoda, and they're like, "Why is Baby Yoda part of the like? Why am I seeing Baby Yoda on socials? Why are my kids like, who's Baby Yoda? Did Yoda have a baby? Like, what am I missing?" So and it was a couple of other things. And so it was Stephanie was like, "Can you just email us every Monday like the things that are going on so we are relevant, so we know what our kids are freaking talking about?" And I then found what I've been missing my whole life was this structure that it gave me. Every Monday morning, I started with an email, and then it moved into Medium because I knew Evan, who was the founder of Twitter, and then went to start Medium, and it was a very easy platform to publish. And I was like, okay, I got this. Pictures, videos, great. And it gave me this structure that I had never had, that no matter what, I had never had. And so I was disciplined for the first time ever in my life. And it became like the feedback, and it started with like 5 friends and 10. And I always knew it was going to be free because it was a gift for me to be able to do, but it also centered my brain. And this is before TikTok. So these were moments that were unfolding on Twitter or real life moments that people then were talking about. But, or like then the Trump administration, we needed what I called it was Trump free. So we needed a break from that and all those years ago. And we needed an escape and something fun. And so then TikTok came and more viral moments started to happen and come about. And it's been like so now I've got thousands, I don't even know, it's gazillions of subscribers in my mind. It's just the fact that anybody subscribes is a miracle. It's now on WordPress on it's popculturemondays.com. And what's so interesting about it is that marketers, brands, CMOs are seeing the huge value in it because it really speaks to how brands connect with their audiences and so forth. A lot of my subscribers, I wrote about the 6'7" phenomenon before it was mainstream. I wrote about Labubu when it was just sort of creeping up way before mainstream. So people feel like they have an inside look at things.
Yeah.
I have an uncanny ability to spot trends because I live online and I collect this information.
That's such a big part of what we need to be good at as comms people now. Like everyone uses this buzz term of like, you need to move at the speed of culture in terms of how you think about what you're positioning against. And I feel like Pop Culture Monday is such a great example of it doesn't have to be a slog. It doesn't have to be hard. Like you can just have fun and learn at the same time.
And it's so important. And the thing is, like, I ended up doing a podcast, which now it's Pop Culture Mondays on Thursdays. But like, so much things happen in between that sometimes like you needed to. And even when I record, by the time that it goes we have a pretty tight turnaround, but it's still 2 days that so much happens that I then have to wait until Monday to talk about newsletter and be like, it's not like I missed it, guys. It's just that there's only like so many days in the week that I can do these things. But it is happening at this, like the speed of culture. And it's wild. And the trends, it bleeds into everything: politics, sports, business, technology, finance. Everything now has an element of it. And we see it whether it's positive or negative, whether it's a scandal or something people are rallying around, like the Kiss Cam Coldplay drama. Breathtakingly sad for all people involved, but also what a cultural sort of like touchstone, and it united people in so many wild, weird ways that it was an important thing to like to spot early and know that this was going to become, a huge, never-ending meme.
Yep. Yeah. Let's dive into some of the Pop Culture Monday issue topics then now.
Great. God. Yeah. It'll be old news by next week, but yeah, let's do it.
We're just doing our best here to keep up.
We're doing our best.
Okay, let's start out with Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. So here's the thing for me. It was
Benito Bowl.
Exactly. Like, did I know what was happening? No. Did I love it? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so interesting. First of all, the whole conversation around this leading up to the Super Bowl it's shocking to some. To me, it's not surprising. I'm very fortunate to have spent a lot of my childhood in Puerto Rico. And I have a deep connection to that island, to the people. When Lin-Manuel Miranda brought Hamilton to Puerto Rico to raise money from the first hurricane and all the damage, I went. I really wanted to go to Bad Bunny, but I couldn't. What Bad Bunny did, this very similar thing, is that he didn't tour in the continental U.S. Really because he was worried his fans would get arrested and did not want to have ICE sort of camped out, but also because he loved his island and he used it as an opportunity to bring tourism to Puerto Rico and to bring people to Puerto Rico that might not ever go, as well as give it back to the community. He had lots of seats available for people in the community. Bad Bunny is a true sort of American love story, and people there is a lack of understanding, like a true lack of awareness and ignorance. People don't understand that Puerto Rico is in fact part of America. Yes. But because he doesn't speak English and speaks Spanish, and that there's so much hate right now that my favorite meme that came out of the Super Bowl around that was the pictures of all of the previous like halftime shows. Like U2, The Who, Rihanna, Coldplay, Paul McCartney, non-Americans.
Yes.
It's actually Bad Bunny. But
they made that into a thing. Like it has to be an American doing the Super Bowl halftime show.
Right, which it's never. I mean, I was there with you too when they did the halftime show after 9/11. It was 2002. It's racism. Let's just call it. It's punching down. It's because he's brown and speaks Spanish. It is nothing else more than that. But the thing that I found so interesting was that I had a neighbor. I was walking my dogs, and my neighbor is this sort of like lovely old man who's lived in the Hollywood Hills for 40 years. And he's like, I really wanted to love Bad Bunny, but I didn't get it. I didn't understand the music and so I explained the symbolism of many of the things that he was showing, from the sugarcane to the power lines to the different contributions that Puerto Ricans have given to New York, to LA, through whether the food and nails and all of the other stuff, to the little boy and his father that we are to, you can think it's him as a little boy, or you could think it was meant to be Liam Ramos, who was kidnapped by ICE in Minneapolis. There's just so many things, and the symbolism, and Gaga coming out, and in that, not being a headliner, but being a superstar and coming in and just being part of that. It gives me chills thinking about now. And you didn't need to speak Spanish. I think the point of it was, like, you were there, just got into it, you were dancing, you were vibing, you did not need to know. And then they, listen to Pearl Jam. Like, do we know what Eddie Vedder is saying at any minute?
I find it
not a word.
It's like, we've had Snoop Dogg, we've had all these people that sing about things that is not my lived experience, but that doesn't mean I can't feel it, enjoy it, get emotional about it. I just find the conversation of like, well, I didn't get it, so it's
I mean, you know what it is.
Like, yeah, I just found
the Jill Zarin destructive thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Jill Zarin was a Bravo celebrity, a Real Housewife of New York, an OG, who has been trying to claw her way back to reality television for over a decade, and finally got her moment because she's part of the cast of a sort of Bravo Pass. So E Entertainment Television is doing the show of sort of some of the originals or early on members of the Real Housewives of New York. It's called, I forget what it's called, something golden, but they're in Palm Beach now, and it's all these different women. And this was her comeback.
I'm interested.
And then she posted an Instagram story about how that was the worst halftime show. She didn't understand a word of it. We're America. This is the 250th anniversary. This is a bad move of the NFL. 135 million people watched. Okay. She just went, and everything has fallen apart. The show has fired her. She is apparently on the brink of a nervous breakdown. But she showed her true colors, like like the lack of judgment and the craziness. And I do think I'm holding up the phone for those of you listening and not watching, this accessibility, and the fact, whether it's our president or whoever, it's just people are just like saying whatever they want. They have this, it becomes an addiction, you just lose sight of what, is that a good idea? Are people gonna
totally? I feel like there is this addiction to people being first now, because everything is so instant, that dopamine hit of being like, even people that are just commenting like first in the comments.
Such a good point.
And so that, because they want to be first, they don't process what they're about to say. And so then it all goes,
and they don't think of the ramifications. Like, my mom would teach me, like, if I want to say something, if I want to, get something out, write it out, sleep on it, and then read it the next day and think about it, and then throw it out, right? And then internalize it in a way. But you're right. There's this obsessive need to be first, to show relevance, and to have this opinion, and to be contrarian, but you fail to understand what the consequences are going to be.
100%.
I thought the Super Bowl, thank God we had Benito Bowl, because the game was so boring. It was so boring. And it was such I have never truly cried, but I put in my podcast that this week, like, there were these two guys, I think they were from El Salvador, that were like, we feel so seen and represented. Like, we just came here to make a dream. We're not evil. We're not criminals. Like, we love the American story. We are part of America, and this is so amazing to be seen. And I think a majority of people see that. And the fact is, listen, this was not Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL. It's not like, I'm going to be good for the people. I think this is good for America and the world. No, it's a business. And the idea of the NFL right now is they need to be a global brand. That is why NFL games are being played outside of America. That's why they're playing, like, this season coming up, they're playing in Brazil. So, Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking countries are a huge market for them. He's very focused on NFL as a global brand. Bad Bunny is both. He is a global phenomenon, despite what JD Vance saying, or I think it was it JD Vance? I forget who that said he wasn't that popular, and it's like, it was the Speaker of the House, the guy, whatever,
one of those old white guys,
who calls his wife mother. But yeah, that's like, I don't even know why he's not even that popular. He's the biggest selling artist in the world.
Yeah.
And he has a duality of fan base. And Roger Goodell knows what it's like. At the end of the day, he put politics aside because he's like, no, nothing is bigger than the global brand for the NFL. And I'm going to stay focused on that.
And just to be clear, like as a nation that doesn't really watch the Super Bowl, or there's pockets of Australians who like NFL, but for the most part, we don't care. We have our own football. More Australians watch that just for that. Like that's
right?
Like everybody was talking about it, and everyone's talking about the message, and especially because Australia is watching America very closely right now in terms of what's going on. And so it's like the fact that they can't, and to your point, NFL is a business, they're smart. This is a very clever move on their behalf to grow the brand, because suddenly people in markets that don't really care about the NFL are talking about the Super Bowl.
100%. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah. And the whether you believe the numbers that are put out by the Kid Rock concert or whatnot, but great, they had millions, they had a few million, great, fine. Like, okay, like, I mean,
the other thing, it's like the Turning Point concert.
The Turning Point concert. I with Kid Rock and whatever the country singer is like, I just like to drink my beer and cut my grass and wear men's pants and like,
there's a faster way for me to find the people who are not my people. It is whoever watched that Turning Point concert.
Of course. But I mean, great. They're like touting 6 million, like, sorry, 135 million people. And that's probably underestimating because of the global reach and the follow-on. 100%. It was a great.
And the memes from the Super Bowl alone were just like it for me.
And they're endless. They're continuing now. There's this carryover of people coming back to work, and they're like me coming back to work after watching the Super Bowl, and they're wearing this like white, like doctors are they're dancing with Bad Bunny, and they're holding something in that's like all not
the tree, like all the
tree people,
AI taking our jobs, and it's like the jobs that remain, and it's like the people in the tree.
Yeah, they're like, you could get a better job now, and like the tree people are so happy.
Yeah. Also, and Lady Gaga singing the Spanish version of her song, but people saying one semester abroad in Barcelona.
Yeah, Gagita. It's so good. It's not
the bridesmaid Spanish, when she drinks the speech a little bit.
From the movie Bridesmaids? Yes, that's Yo Tomo, Diablo, Mi Casa. It sort of reminds me of the U2 song where they incorporated uno, dos, tres, catorce, and it's wrong. But they didn't know, and so it's become part of the whole like nature of that song. Good. It's amazing. And, it's for the first time, I will say, like, I usually am dominated by the ads. Yes. Like, I love the ads. I've always loved the ads. And this year I felt the ads, like, a lot of them fell short, and the tech ones in particular, the crypto ones. I mean, that Coinbase ad, everybody is watching. They're like, why is this karaoke with this Backstreet Boys? What is going on? Why is our screen? And you're sort of like, it's memorable, you'll be clever. And then when they showed the Coinbase logo, everyone in my group was like, fuck, that sucks. What a disappointment. And then you saw throughout socials, that was the general consensus. And they're spinning it now. They're like, they're just like, well, whether you like it or hate it, everyone's talking about it. And you're like,
I also feel like Backstreet Boys came out the true winner in this, because they were in the T-Mobile commercial, and then they got like, it was literally.
They looked like I thought they were AI versions of themselves in the T-Mobile commercial. They look so different. Yeah.
I think they're playing at the Sphere at the moment, so it's like way to drive people to their concert. Like
that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's very clever. Mm-hmm. Very clever. Wait, the ad that I loved, and this is so it's like not because there was obviously the Claude Anthropic ad that was going after.
That we need to get into.
But did you guys clock the Raisin Bran ad with William Shatner?
I did not see that.
Okay, so he's like, William Shat here, because the idea was, so it's like, like people call me Hammer. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, people call me William Shat, but it was about the fiber in the Raisin Bran. So they're like, William Shat on the car, because he would land on a car, and he's like, I sure did. He's like, William Shat's here, and he goes, every day. Like, on William Shat in this moment in time. It was so funny, and I'm like, that's a throwback to when ads were just like hilarious and funny, and everybody sort of got it if they were paying attention, and it was just
And
sweet. Like
they know their audience. Like who's
we're talking about
what
poop.
age group?
And it's a 90-year-old man talking about he's William Shat. I shat everywhere.
Yeah. When is a poop joke not funny? Like it's the most. It's the funniest thing forever, always.
And then the AI. And then when AI starts making fun of each other, it's like, oh, we're fucked. We're doomed. The end of the world is nigh.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, I thought, with like the whole like ChatGPT versus Claude kind of battle that they had was like, instead of knocking the ads for, OpenAI and what that was going to look like, I think the Anthropic team completely missed the boat on saying, like, talking about co-work and like talking about all of the cool new features that they have that OpenAI does not offer. Like,
correct.
They're actually a better platform, in my opinion. And it's crazy that
it's a much better platform. And I loved the idea. Like at first you're like, it's funny because it is, like you do get it if you use ChatGPT and you're like, it is, the tone is different. But the fact is, for many people, it was the first introduction to Claude. And you're punching down, you're going negative without highlighting who you are. So in the long run, I think it's a terrible strategy.
Which is a shame because they're better anyway.
They are much better. But I also thought it was a bad strategy for ChatGPT, OpenAI to get all defensive, and the CMO is going on Twitter and they're like, I'm like, guys, like you're calling more attention to this. Like does anybody understand how this works? Do you know how any of this works? Just like shut it down. Say nothing.
Who do you think, like bringing it back, I guess, from the comms perspective of that, right? So obviously the big marketing and the potentially ad agencies, they create the ads. I'm hoping the comms team were privy to what the ads were and what they were,
You hope, but you don't know.
But sometimes not, right? We've all been in places where they're like, we did a Super Bowl ad, and you're like, oh, we've not been included in any of this.
Thank you so much for not realizing that we are as important as the marketing team. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then you wonder at the other side, to your point, their reaction was so defensive, and they're, like, who's guiding the ship there in terms of like, this is not the right way to go about this.
I actually commented on a tweet. I normally don't do this, but I was just like, can someone please tell her how this works? Like there seems to be no one guiding, or if they are, the Sam Altmans of the world, unfortunately, do believe that they know best. They do believe that, like, and that's why when comms people come in and they don't last very long, or at least good ones, and we can talk about like the Kalshi woman, for example, that I'm still shocked over. But you come in and the good ones will say like, I can't be privy to that. I can't be part of this because nothing I say is going to actually get done. They have me here as a hire, but they're not listening to me because they think they know better. And we know that that's generally not true. That's hubris. That is a lack of self-awareness. And, in this case, it's sort of like they should have gotten in a room and said, guys, like, we understand it's stupid, it's annoying, and we can come back, and they're misinforming people. But if we say anything, we're calling more attention to it. We can kill this in other clever ways, and let's just like my mom taught me. Write it out and put it under your pillow, and don't say anything publicly.
Like the breakup letter. Don't mail the breakup letter.
Don't mail the breakup letter. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the same thing from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago. It's just now.
It just lacks creativity. It's all feeding ego, and it's lacking a breath and saying, like, what are we actually solving for? Like, how are we actually better? And then repositioning the wind, really, because it's just, it just felt so reactionary.
Yeah.
Reactive. There she is.
Both.
Yes.
I don't know. I use words incorrectly all the time. It's part of my thing.
It's my brand now. So let's talk about what happened with Kalshi then too, because I think that was an interesting thing that we saw go down, and the head of comms at Kalshi got absolutely ripped on Twitter too.
And rightly so. It pains me when I see people like that make really bad mistakes. She has a good, resume. She comes from places, but She also comes from places like Meta and, you know, Facebook and Instagram, where is that level of hubris where it's like, you will listen to us and we will be the, you know, from a different moment. And I understand transparency. I do. I'm a big believer of being transparent. So the story is an article came out about them that they disagreed with. They said that this is not correct and they used the incorrect data and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. And there is also a lot right now where Kalshi's trying to say that they're not betting, right? That this is all prediction markets. It's not betting. We're not betting. Like, okay, like that is not an argument that is going to win. Like, let's try a new strategy. But so they're already under that. And she comes out with this, like, this is very disappointing and da-da. And I'm all for it. Like, I actually do like believe in calling out journalists if you've done everything possible and it went wrong. However, she did it in the wrong way. And the fact is, when you're going to call attention to it, she should have said, the whole point was like, here's our data. Here's the data. Like, if she could have said actually word for word what she said and said, here's actually our data. Then I think a lot of people wouldn't have been able to say what they said. You may not like her approach, but it would have been effective and impactful. You know what? For transparency's sake, this is what we said. Here's our data. Here it is. But they're not going to show. You can't cry and bemoan this and then say, but we're not going to show you. You don't know. Like, you have to trust me, and now I've given you no reason to trust me. So it was a terrible move. It seemed very impetuous, and I think she had every right to be ripped over the coals for that.
Yeah, I think that people also now in this age of like, show me the data, let's like, we've got receipts, like that kind of world, like it's just not good enough to make a claim and then like also claim authority while
but you're trust, because there's no trust anymore. There's certainly no one trusts anyone. Companies.
Like, you've got to earn it now. It's not something where it's like, oh, my dad told me this brand is good, so I trust it, kind of thing.
When I started in PR and in tech, the level of trust was just implied. We were trustworthy. If you were a tech company and you had funding from somebody and somebody of value, if somebody like Mark Andreessen came in, you were immediately validated and you were trustworthy. And we blew that. We blew that royally, right? We had bad founders. Yeah. And people took advantage of that built-in trust. And so now I think there's still some people who just forget that that's not the way the world works anymore. And now you don't just get an implied sense of trust just because you've raised however much money, just because you're a successful business. I mean, a great example was Clubhouse. Right?
Yeah.
When that exploded onto the market during COVID, exploded. Everybody was talking about it. It went from being a VC thing to mainstream overnight. We're in COVID, whatnot. But the CEO, the founder, who I know, the level of like audacity. I mean, it was really the audacity, because I spoke to him and I was like, listen, you're going to have this. I'm just telling you. And he was like, oh, babe, we're a lightning rod. We are a rocket ship. We are destined for being the most important company in Silicon Valley. I was like, okay. And he did not listen to people. He did not see the writing on the wall. And so he blew up. And the idea, I think, was shocking to him and to his inner circle of people that too big to fail could happen.
Yeah.
The other thing with them is, to your point about they've been trying to spin this line of they're not betting, right? So people are already skeptical. They already kind of don't believe them in terms of what, and so you're starting, tech companies are not what they were and people don't have built-in trust. Then you're in a business which is pretty dicey in itself to a lot of people. They don't necessarily believe in it. They, and then on top of that, you then go out with this tweet, but then you won't show the data. And the interesting thing to me is, if you didn't want to show the data publicly, there's still a way that you could have picked a handful of reporters, given them the data, and said, hey, you may want to look at this because this other article is whack job, whatever.
That's because you're good at what you do.
But it's like, did she have a brain? Like, what is wrong with people?
And that's where relationships come in, right? Because you can say, like, not me, no harm, no foul, but you can be the storyteller of this. And somebody close to the company.
Yeah.
The era of the bulldog PR person is over, I think, for sure.
But I just don't understand why she did. I really wonder whether she just had, like, she was just in that. And to our point earlier about the accessibility of, like, I'm mad, so I'm going on Twitter to call this fucking reporter out. And it's like, I don't know.
And who knows what the CEO was pressuring her to do, and who knows what she was able to push back. But, I think it was funny. One of the favorite tweets I saw, and that was, I wish we could go back to it when it was Kashi, and it's the cereal, everybody, the healthy cereal, the healthy shredded wheat. But yeah, I mean, I think she probably, there's a little bit of hubris there. Like I know I am on this rocket ship, and you are going to all listen to me. There's probably pressure from the CEO, who's like, God damn this. How did this happen? Fix this, shame this reporter, shame them. But the fact that they just didn't have critical thinking to say, okay, just take a step back. What I always tell people is like, you have to think about what are the positives and what are the negatives? What is the ROI here, but what could be the fallout, and what is more valuable and whatnot? And you would map it out saying, okay, we're going to put this out, but the people are going to come about, what about the data? So how does that become a bigger issue than the issue itself? And they didn't think through that. And that's so obvious now in what we're seeing unfold.
Well, and that's what it looked like in the leadership table when the emperor has no clothes on, right? And like nobody's calling out the thing, or, one of my clients always asks me, he's like, I want you to be the 12th man, like to come in and like say the hard thing. And if that doesn't happen, then this is kind of the emotion that gets tied up with it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and in this day and age, the outrage passes. We have so many things that we're outraged by. There'll be a new outrage, so she'll probably be fine at some point. I don't know. But I certainly, as a journalist, would have a very different level of trust with her than I did prior to that tweet.
Yeah.
Or whatever a journalist is these days, a podcaster, a newsletter writer, a YouTube creator, anybody who has got given a voice, she's going to come to you. You're going to second guess what your conversation is like now. And what's going to be a result if you don't do something she likes.
Yeah. It is wild.
Okay, what else you got for me?
The Olympic eagle skirts that you had on Pop Culture Monday. Devoncy, did you see the Americans like?
Because you sent it to me. I wouldn't have otherwise, but I am aware now.
Nike made
winter like Olympic sports. I mean, Scotty James is not hype, but
okay. So I'm glad you said that, because we're all rooting for Scotty James, but also Val, the young guy who's like 21 and also in the half pipe. We punch above our weight. Like, we like to think like there is no reason we should be good at Winter Olympics, like none. But hey, we don't do too bad. We have some good skaters. We have like a couple of little things, but probably Scotty James is our gold medal hope, to be fair.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I'm woefully uneducated in the athletes other than Ilya, the figure skater, who I'm obsessed with. And
fun story, Scotty James is married to Chloe Stroll, who is Lance Stroll's sister.
Oh,
who's the F1 driver and a billion.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
I love those little synergies.
Like, he's not that young anymore, but he's like an Australian from like some small town in Victoria, I think. So yeah, we're going for him. But anyway, that's a side note on the Olympics.
The fashion of the Olympics has taken a front seat. So from a culture perspective, what you started to see unfold more than just sports itself were the fashion moments. And this is not exclusive to America. The unboxings were a really big deal. So people from South Korea, from Italy, from Canada, from France, and from the US were unboxing for their audiences, for their people, of the fits that the brands had made specifically for them and putting them on. And then there's a whole sort of like, market for this. And then creators are sitting there being like, my parents didn't do enough to get me into sports, so I could sit there and unbox my stuff from Nike and Skims collab. Like it's so, not that I wanted to be an athlete, like I want the Skims, like merch, it's all about merch. Yeah. So much merch. But then a thing that came out of that was that one of the pieces of merch that came to the US athletes, unclear if it was just to women, but men are seeing it. It's like this puffer skirt, like it like literally made out of like a puffer jacket, but it's a puffer skirt with the American eagle on it. It's very dramatic.
If you have not seen this thing, it looks like a sleeping bag that has the Eagles album printed onto it.
Yes.
Like, the original, that one, like when they're in the desert.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the eagle soaring. And it's funny, and they've made lots of all the athletes are making funny videos. There's this like one sound from Harry Potter where it's the Professor Snape, and it's like and they're running around with the wand, and it's so funny. It's really, I find it very funny. But you know what? Those skirts are going to sell. You're going to find them on the secondary market.
Yes,
You're gonna see
100%.
those things in real life. They're going to be iconic at some point. So
That was one of the joys that, one of those things that Pop Culture Mondays brings to me, because I am not so much on TikTok anymore. So I would have completely missed that because, like it happens.
that's only a TikTok thing.
Yeah. And then like 10 years later, it's on Instagram somehow. But like, I would have missed that. And I was in stitches watching the girls run around with those skirts.
I love it. And one of the worst things my friends can say about me is like they'll send me a ton of Instagram feeds. I'm like, oh, it was in Pop Culture Mondays 3 weeks ago. Thank you for reading it. Terrible friends, but I say I'm a broken record, and I do that. Like I send, and then I'm like delete. Like you've said this enough. You just have to go with it. Not everybody is going to read your newsletter, Brooke. Not even your best friends. It's fine.
But why not?
Okay. We did the Olympic skirt. What else you got?
I was going to talk about looks maxing as well.
Oh God, the word.
Because I feel like this is just men redoing everything that women do anyways. Like one thing with looks maxing, so what people are talking about is it's like looking the best version of yourself, but like as a man. So like exercising, dieting, like getting ready, like that sort of thing. That's literally just like what women have done forever. And then also it's like the same phrase of fitness or like working out, and that's like biohacking for like guys.
Correct. So it's just stuff that we've always done that men have once again co-opted, but they've taken it to another level. So looks maxing actually came out of an early like 2010 sort of incel movement, sort of like how to get women to like you have to come and look. And so we started to see it a couple years ago with the guys doing mewing, which was to get that jawline. And they're showing the videos of what they do, and you're like, if women did this, we would be universally mocked. But these guys are like, mewing, and that became a thing. And now it's looks maxing, and the sort of king of looks maxing is this kid whose name goes by Clavicular.
First of all, I was shocked that you know how to pronounce that, because when I read it, I was like, I'm going to say this 7 times and get it wrong every time.
Clavicular. And I only because I've watched so many of his videos, and he's got the chiseled jaw. He's had a lot of, it's not just, by the way, this is not just things that he's doing with products and he's getting surgeries. He's done a lot of the stuff, the jawline, doing things, but where it's taken a dark turn is he did an interview. There's 2 things that happened recently. He did an interview, this clavicular vernacular. This is where my brain goes, because the vernacular of the English language has changed so much with these words. So Clavicular is asked what he takes, like what supplements and drugs he takes to sort of achieve this, and he gets into you're sitting there listening like you're listening to Huberman or any of these guys in that sort of biohacking space, and he's talking about minoxidil, and he's listing out all these supplements, and then he just casually drops crystal meth. And he says, I do crystal meth because it's actually a much more effective stimulant than Adderall, and I microdose crystal meth, And the guy goes on about it, like the interview just goes on, and I'm like, what?
Hold on.
I'm sorry. And he's got millions and millions of followers and of young men, and they're listening to this guy. And this is where I'm like, how are the platforms not, like, how are they okay with this? Because he is now promoting to his audiences to microdose crystal meth.
And does that mean that like meth is a normal thing now, that he can just talk about it, or is he?
I don't understand. I've never heard of such a thing. It's not normalized in any of the circles I'm in
nowadays.
But whether it used to be like Adderall was a thing, and now he's like, oh, Adderall's not nearly as effective as crystal meth. These millions of kids, boys, 13 to 20 are listening to that and be like, I got to get me some crystal meth. I want that jawline. He said for his cheeks, it hollows out his cheeks because he's on crystal meth.
Because he's taking his refrigerator apart in the backyard. That's why.
And then there's all this new terminology and another thing called mogging, which is when somebody looking better than somebody else. And so he went wildly viral this week or last week because he was at ASU and an ASU frat boy mogged him, meaning he outdid him in looks and body and fitness. And he was shamed and embarrassed. And like, you're watching, it's just some guy standing next to him and like flexing. It's just so dumb. This is why we are going gay. This is why, like, most people, because I'm not married, I don't have kids, and my best friend is a lesbian, people think I'm a lesbian, and that's fine. Great. I wish I were, because my life would be so much easier. But you're seeing, like, this is what the men are for our girls of today. Like, this is what your dating pool is. Like, no, we're going to have a ton, like, the right is crazy if they don't think this is pushing people to the other side. You're going to have a lot of gay families now, a lot of women just being like, I've had it, I think. That's my theory. It's not even about sex. It's just about like, I can't partner up with one of these guys.
Like our parents thought the same thing about us when we were kids. Like,
sure. I mean, I remember my mother and I was just about to say, my mother was so horrified by how often I said like, that she made me put money into a jar every time I said it. And I still think of it to this day, but I still say like quite a bit. But I used to like do the hair flip and be like mom, like shut up, like mom, no, you like don't understand, like you don't understand like anything. And my mom would be horrified. But that is a quite different thing than being like, mom, I need to get my hands on some crystal meth because I need some college chicks. Quite different.
I think the other thing is like, women have been facing a version of this, right? But what worries me about it all is like, that's not a good thing that we've had that to grow up with. And I definitely don't want it for boys either. And
correct.
I think this generation, I was listening to something the other day about this kind of digital dementia. And essentially they now have a generation of kids that has had a screen from birth essentially available to them. And they have figured out that parts of their brain are different than kids at the same stages. And there's gray matter that's coming. Like, it's really scary. And then so you times that with like the amount of time these kids are exposed to, and some of these people are adults being exposed to 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I look at that guy and I'm like, they're aspiring to be nothing but good looking. That's it. And by the way, good looking to a probably white Western aesthetic, right? Like, they're saying the ultimate in good looks. They're not Asian. They're not like, and I suppose they kind of, there's versions of that in every race, probably in this world of mogging and maxing. I have no idea. I'm not in that world, but it just scares the shit out of me, quite frankly, as someone who has a 6-year-old son. And then I have girls as well. So it's kind of like, it's scary to me how, to your point, normalize someone saying crystal meth is a supplement that I take. And people go, oh, interesting, as opposed to like, oh, you're a nut job. Like, you should get out of here.
And why the platforms then have not banned him? That's what I don't understand.
They haven't.
It's all
And
mainstream media now. It's everywhere.
yeah.
And then he said that like JD Vance is not, I don't know what the terms are, but like he was criticizing JD Vance because he's overweight and whatever. And then he was like saying Gavin Newsom was the best because he was like ultimate mog or whatever. But it's like, but he doesn't agree with Gavin Newsom's policies, or he's not aligned to him politically. But he's like, oh no, but I would vote for him because he's the ultimate, mog or whatever. That's like,
I mean, whatever it takes to get people to not vote for JD Vance. I guess I'll pick that at the same time. No, I joke, but and the fact that he's even weighing in on politics is also like frightening.
Well, right.
It's frightening. That's what I mean. It's like, I just these young boys who, maybe don't have as many avenues to talk this through. Like, I think girls sometimes have a little bit more avenues to kind of talk that through and have pathways to be a bit more vulnerable about what that means. Yeah.
And it's why Scott Galloway is out there talking about this. I don't agree with Scott Galloway on a lot of things, and he and I come to blows quite a bit, but you do see a point that like we have been served, like there's so much around helping girls and be strong and be different and whatnot, and now these boys are clearly suffering, and there's this whole movement of guys who don't know how to interact, and they live online and they have this sort of like standard and of what they're supposed to look like, and if you look a certain way, then you won't be alone and you'll have that girl and everything will be fine, and so you will do whatever you can to achieve that. It's ruining a generation.
Yeah. Well, and then
Let's do
on
something
that
else.
note,
Yeah. On that note, I can have a drink now.
yeah,
We
exactly.
haven't solved it, so let's move on.
This is a part of the episode where we all start drinking.
Great. I'm ready.
Brooke, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We talked a lot about all things, everything, particularly in pop culture. I feel a lot smarter in that area now, but tell us, how are you dumb in private?
I mean, so many ways. I can't. There's like, if I say, I said to somebody once, like a reality show on me just doing, like, if you just put a camera on me 24 hours a day, people are like, Brooke is so smart. So, like, it's the level of like, oh God, I can't believe I just did that. But it was a recent one. I was staying in Palm Springs and I was with my dogs and my friends. We had I'd rented a house, and I said to the owners, I'd been out taking the dogs in the grass, like, and I said to the owners of the Airbnb when they were like, how's it going? And I said, how do you keep your grass so green? Like, how, like, the grass is unbelievable. Like, how do you keep it? And they were like, it's not real grass, Brooke. It's grass. And I had been in the grass. Like, I had been in the grass. I had taken the dogs on this grass. Like, so I was like, okay, well, now to be fair, and I have since now incorporated it into my house. I come from I think of fake grass as like a putt-putt, like it's so obviously fake. And there is this new advancements, which I've now incorporated into my backyard, where it's like this grass that has brown blades in it and whatnot, and it looks real. But I mean, my feet were on this grass. Like, I was like, how do you keep this grass so green in Palm Springs?
It was premium. It was the premium.
It was premium, but it was turf. It was fake grass, but they were like, you've been here for 2 days. You haven't clocked that. So that's my dumb and like
I everything, Brooke. You can't. So I'm glad you don't know what grass looks like.
Smells like. I mean, come on. It was
100%.
I said to them, please never show that email to anyone, please.
Yeah. And now here we are.
For the world to know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If anyone has any topics or suggestions, please reach out to us at hello@smartandpublicpod.com. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, the works. Thank you so much for joining us, Brooke. It's been an absolute treat.
Oh my God.
See you guys next week.
Thank you guys for having me. Let's do it again.
Okay. I'd love
Okay.
to.
Bye.
Bye.